Alright, so the disability I want to talk about now is autism spectrum disorder. This was one that I really wanted to go over because a lot of people that I have seen recently on social media have just been absolutely fucking dogpiling on people with ASD because there are different levels of ASD. And a lot of people don't understand that, and it is pretty much just leading to people assuming false things, and or causing more stigma and harm to the people with autism, and that's not right. So I'm here to pretty much use the research skills that I have and kind of give everyone a solid idea of what ASD actually is, and that it's not something that a person can control, because they can't. They can have better control over it sometimes, and they can have worse control over it sometimes. But it's not something that goes away, and there are different levels, so just because you know someone who has a certain level of autism doesn't mean everybody has that same level. Now, autism is now called ASD, autism spectrum disorder. It's a lifelong neurodevelopmental condition that affects how a person communicates, interacts socially, processes information, experiences sensory stimuli, and behaves. Importantly, autism is not a mental illness, nor is it caused by vaccines, poor parenting, emotional neglect, or excessive screen time. Instead, it is a neurodevelopmental difference that begins early in life and persists through adulthood. Many autistic individuals possess remarkable strengths, including exceptional attention to detail, strong memory, creativity, logical thinking, honest and deep expertise in areas of personal interest. So, as the research has just stated, autism is not caused by poor parenting or vaccines, and it's not a mental illness. It is a literal neurodevelopmental disorder. It is not something that if you just punish your child inherently, repeatedly, they're just going to stop being autistic. That's not how that works. ASD is a neurodevelopmental disorder characterized by persistent deficits in social communication and social interaction across multiple settings, together with restricted, repetitive patterns of behavior, interests, or activities. These features begin during the early developmental period, although they may become fully apparent only when social demands exceed the individual's capabilities or capacities. Autism spectrum disorder encompasses conditions that were previously diagnosed separately, including autistic disorder, Asperger's syndrome, childhood disintegrative disorder, and pervasive developmental disorder, not otherwise specified as PDD-NOS. These conditions are now recognized as a part of a single spectrum because they share common underlying characteristics despite differences in symptoms, severity, and support needs. Let's see. So, with that being in mind, autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder. It is not a failure of parenting. It's not a failure of anything. It is just how your child's brain or how that adult's brain is made. Core symptoms of autism spectrum disorder are persistent difficulties in social communication and social interactions. These affect multiple areas of functioning, including social reciprocity, nonverbal communication, relationship development, and social understanding. The second part is restricted and repetitive behaviors. These include repetitive movements, insistence on routines, highly focused interest, and sensory processing differences. Difficulties with social reciprocity. Many autistic individuals experience challenges in the natural back and forth flow of social interactions. Examples include limited initiation of conversations, difficulty maintaining conversations, reduced sharing of interests or emotions, limited response to social cues, preference for talking about personal interests, and difficulty taking turns during conversation. Nonverbal communication difficulties. Examples include reduced or unusual eye contact, limited facial expression, difficulty interpreting facial expressions in others, reduced use of gestures, unusual body posture, and difficulty understanding tone of voice. Some, but not all, autistic people speak in a monotone voice because they don't understand how to change their voice for their emotions. So it is one of those things, it is a complex disorder that affects every single part of their life. And it's not something that you can just inherently punish your child for and suddenly they will just grow out of it. Autism can be genetic. It can be passed down from parent to child. Whether the parent themselves had it or somebody else somewhere in the immediate family had it, and it was just passed down. It necessarily doesn't have to be something that just showed up out of nowhere. Or it could be. You never know. It's one of those things that it is a complex thing to understand. Let me see if I can find what I'm looking for here. So, some people with ASD have a known difference, such as a genetic condition. Other causes are not known yet. Scientists believe there are multiple causes of ASD that act together to change the most common ways people develop. We still have much to learn about these causes and how they affect people. Early intervention services can greatly improve the development of a child with ASD. Although we know little about specific causes, the available evidence suggests that the following may put children at a greater risk for developing ASD. So these are like small little causes, but the evidence that is available that they have found does conclude that these following things may put them at a greater risk. It doesn't mean it definitely will or it definitely won't. It can or it can't. Having a sibling with ASD, having a certain genetic or chromosomal condition, such as Fragile X syndrome or tuberous sclerosis, experiencing complications at birth, or being born to older parents. The CDC is currently working on one of the largest U.S. studies to date on ASD. ASD can sometimes be detected at 18 months of age or younger. By 2 years, a diagnosis by an experienced professional can be considered reliable. However, many children do not receive a final diagnosis until they are much older. This delay means that some people with ASD might not get the early help that they need. So, autism spectrum, it also does have different levels. I want to make sure I have this right, so let me pull up my article that I have on this. Pardon me. There are 3 levels of ASD. The first level, requiring support, trouble understanding and following social rules, rigid or inflexible behavior, some stress during transitions, may benefit from therapy or life skills. So those people do function at a relatively normal level, but they still have autism. So just because they aren't profoundly autistic does not mean that they don't have autism. Level 2 is requiring substantial support, atypical social behavior like walking away mid-conversation, high interest in specific topics, noticeable distress when faced with change, may need school accommodations like reading help or social skills. Level 3 is what they call profound autism, or requiring very substantial support, severe communication deficits such as being nonverbal, repetitive behaviors like rocking or spinning, extreme distress when asked to switch tasks, may need one-on-one time with an education assistant, and may use alternative or argumentative and alternative communication AAC tools like pictures. So level 1, special or restricted interest in repetitive behavior can be a need for additional personal organization, behavioral rigidity and inflexibility, stress during transition, attention span differences, and perseveration, focusing on something longer than is helpful. So, with level 1 autism, the students do have special interests. They do struggle during transitions, and they like routines. The unpredictability can upset them. It can very much so upset them pretty in a big way. Level 2, which is requiring substantial support, using fewer words or noticeably different speech, missing nonverbal communication cues like facial expressions, exhibiting atypical social behavior like not responding or walking away during a conversation. Restricted interest in repetitive behavior at level 2 might resemble high interest in specific topics or noticeable distress when dealing with change or disruption. Level 3, which is profound autism, they may be non-speaking or have echolalia, repeating words or phrases that they hear, prefer solitary activities, interact with others only to meet an immediate need, seem unable to share imaginative play with peers, demonstrate limited interest in friendship. They also demonstrate a limited interest in friendships. For restricted and repetitive behaviors, they might engage in repetitive physical behaviors like rocking, blinking, or spinning in circles, and express extreme distress when asked to switch task or focus. So, that is ASD in simplicity. It is not caused by vaccines. It is not a failure of parenting or anything like that. It is a neurodevelopmental disorder that occurs when certain factors combine to change the structure and function of the brain. So, that is all I have for ASD. If anyone that is subscribed to me has ASD, I would like to know more about it, and maybe you can correct anything that I got wrong.